Sure. Alright, so we're going to talk about quantity today. But before we begin, write this question down for me. Why do you get kicked out of Zoom after 40 minutes? Alright?
Are we supposed to answer that right now, sir?
Yeah. Think about it. Reason it through. What quantity is there?
Time.
Time.
Because there's a specific time.
Right. Pause for me. You said time. 1 second. Mathematics. And we're talking about quantities and units. And the questioner said, why does Zoom kick you out after 40 minutes? All right. Now, Benjamin was answering that question. Benjamin, what were you saying?
Sir, it was me. I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
I joined the class like 30 seconds ago.
Alright, yeah. Continue for me.
Because it's a specific time that we're supposed to be in the meeting.
Right, so there's a time limit. Now, what measurement is that time in? Is it seconds?
45 minutes.
40 minutes. It's minutes.
Oh.
Alright?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. So, the quantity is time and the unit is minutes. Right for me? Quantity is time. 1 second. So the quantity is time. The quantity is time. And the unit is minutes. Alright, so stick with me, Alex. You said it's 40 minutes. Could Zoom therefore say, okay, Alex, I'm gonna kick you out of the meeting after 2400 minutes. Sorry, 2400 seconds. What did I do there?
Excuse me?
Could Zoom tell you that they're gonna kick you out in another? Could Zoom tell you that they're gonna kick you out in another way?
No.
What if they say they're gonna kick you out after a certain amount of seconds? Couldn't they do that?
Yeah.
Couldn't they?
Yes.
Couldn't they express time in seconds? Yes, they could. So they could say, okay, Alex, after a certain period of seconds, I'm going to kick you out of the same meeting, which is 40 minutes. So we need to understand how much seconds make a minute. How much seconds make a minute?
60.
60 seconds. So we're going to say for every minute, put in bracket 1M. There is 60 seconds. There is 60 seconds. Alright, now let's do some math calculation. Alex and I are going to try to find out how much seconds would it take for Zoom to kick you out in that same 40-minute span.
I can calculate that.
Alright, calculate and tell me what you get. And tell me what you did.
400.
I heard somebody, but I didn't see they raise their hand. What did you say?
2,400 seconds.
Right, that's why I said 2,400 or 2,400. So, Zoom could say the time before I kick you out is 40 minutes multiplied by 60 seconds, which is going to be 2,400 Would it be 2,400 minutes or 2,400 seconds?
2,400 seconds.
Right. Right? So therefore, 2,400 seconds is the same thing as 40 minutes. Did I lose anybody?
No.
Alright. So that was a very exciting example as what is a quantity, what is a unit, and how do you convert between the two. Sorry, and how do you convert between units? Alright, so we're going to write some definitions now. We're going to understand firstly what is a quantity and what is a unit. Everybody take this off?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Alright, now let's write the definition for quantity. Alright, so for quantity, look on your screen for me. Let me just minimize myself. There we go. It says quantity is something that can be measured. For example, the height of a person, the speed of a car, or the time before Zoom kicks you out. Quantity is something that can be measured. For example, the height of a person or the speed of a car. Alright? And then now, we're going to understand what unit is. Unit is a measure of a quantity. For example, time. Time is the quantity, and you can measure time under seconds. You can also measure time under minutes. You can even measure time in hours. Alright? All of them are just fancy ways we talk about this beautiful thing called time. Alright? 60 seconds is 1 minute. Alright? 30 seconds. How much would 30 seconds be? If 60 seconds equal 1 minute, how much would 30 seconds, half of that 60 be? Think about it. Think about it.
Sir.
Can you repeat that?
Half a minute or just 30 seconds itself?
So it would be half a minute. What is half of 1? Since 1 minute was 1. What is half of 1?
30.5.
0.5.
Oh.
Right. So we're going to understand how we did that. Don't worry. But this is just to entice you a little bit. So we can measure quantities such as time in different units. Alright? Now we're going to quickly understand a table and the general units we use. We call those the basic units. So if you're measuring length, for example, alright, the typical unit you would come across is meter. Alright, so before you draw that diagram, I'm going to quickly give you an illustration of what I mean. 1 second, let me give you an illustration. One second. Alright. Ready? Okay. Let's say that I am on a road. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? And I want to know if I started from here, let's say this is me. The Thompson's right here. I'm walking on this road. And I want to know the distance that I traveled when I reach right here. Here's Mr. Thompson again. What quantity would I use to measure that? Let's look at the table.
Meters.
Meters, because I'm measuring a distance, and a distance is a length. Alright? So we're going to understand length by saying Let me small up my camera now. When you measure length, you want to know how long or how high or how far something is. So how far, how high, or how long something is. So that's when we use length. Let me write that. Alright? So we just learned about length. Right? We learned that it's measuring, for example, distance. We said that the basic unit is going to be meter, but you have a symbol. Remember from sets, we learned that there's some symbols to represent, like for example, the subset, we use symbols to represent subset. Remember this? The C. Anybody remember the C from sets? Okay, good. Now, in quantities, you use symbols again. So to represent length, you're going to use the symbol L, which is self-explanatory, the first letter of length. Alright? So I'm going to say this common L. It's not a capital L. It's a common L. Alright? Right? And the distance is covered in basic unit of meter. Alright? Meter. Okay? And what do you think the symbol for meter is? It's gonna be just M. Right. So, this is called a basic unit. Basic unit. This is called symbols and this is called a quantity. Alright? Basic quantity. But my question is, why are they called basic? Why do you think they're called basic? Let me give you a scenario. Let's use that same road again. Alright? Let's say instead of me walking now, I'm going to be driving. Here's my lovely car. It's a box. Here's the road. Okay? Now, when you're driving in a car, guys, what do you see on the dashboard? Do you just see the distance the car is traveling? Or do you see a speed?
So you see the speed, and for some cars you would see how far you've been driving.
The mileage. But let's talk about the speed. So when you see speed, it doesn't just mean how far you are traveling. So for example, that's meter. But because cars are so fast, you want to know how quick did it take to travel that distance. So we call that meters per second. Alright? Meters per second. So that's why when I said last time, your dad or your mom drives a car, you would call it a quantity of kilometers per hour. This is where it derives from. You travel a certain distance in a certain amount of time. Alright? So write that for me. When driving a car, so we're going to understand why we have basic units. So write this for me. When driving a car,
Sir, I can't see your camera thing.
Oh, my bad. Let me enlarge it. There we go. Alright, can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
So it says, when driving a car, you travel a distance. And we know that's meter. So we're going to put in bracket M. Alright? When driving a car, you travel a distance m. Okay? But to know how fast you are driving, we use time. So how fast did it take you to travel X amount of distance? Alright? That is where we get meters per second from. Or in better term, kilometers per hour. Alright? We derive a new quantity. A new quantity for example, m/s or km/hr. Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
But in both cases, can you repeat that?
So I'm writing it off.
Okay. But in both cases, while you're writing, look at this for me now. Don't you see meter in both? So we see meters per second and we see kilometer. So kilo comes from meter, right? That's why we say meter is the base or it's basic because other quantities come from it. Kilometer comes from meter. Alright? So that's why meter is a basic unit because other units can be derived from it. Length is a basic quantity now because other quantities such as speed can derive from it. And I'm going to write that for you. Everybody take this off?
No, sir, I'm not done.
Alright, so two things I have to write. Why meter is a basic unit and why length is a basic quantity. Alright, now I want to use the other three, which is mass, time, and temperature. Alright, so quickly get it off and then we're going to write through them. Okay, now let's explain now why meter is a basic unit. What is the definition of basic units? What is the definition of basic units? Okay. Now, we said before meter was basic because other quantities can be derived from it. So we're going to say when other quantities such as kilometer, derives from meter. The word derives means comes from. Let me check who's that. Derives mean come from. Good afternoon, Zenordo. 1 second, I must take attendance. So derives mean come from.
Sir, the participant is blocking your
Oh.
screen from what I see.
My
Hi,
bad.
George.
So derived slash comes from meter. Meter is a basic unit. Any questions? So as long as something can come, or another quantity or a unit can come from another, that is an example of a basic unit or a basic quantity. Alright, now write this for me. What is the definition of basic quantities? Everybody have this off?
Sir, I'm on the last line.
Alright. What is the definition of a basic quantity? What is the definition of a basic quantity? When other quantities such as speed derives slash comes from length. Length is a basic quantity. Length is a basic quantity. Length is a basic Now I'm recording the class, so if at any point you miss the notes, you can just quickly go back through the timestamps and take it off. Alright? Because what I want to get through now is some exercises where we learn to convert. Same as how Alex converted the time for us when we started to kind of engage you guys. We're going to learn how to convert between different units such as meter. So we're not going to learn every single unit today, but the first thing I want you to understand is the derived quantities. Alright? So we said that the derived quantity that comes from length is speed, or we call it velocity. Alright? And it's meters per second, or ms to the negative 1. So it's either you write it like m/s or ms to the negative 1. Anybody understands why we say s to the negative 1? Everybody understand why we say it?
No, sir.
Alright, let me explain it. Thank you for being honest. So, let's explain now why you see a negative 1 in the power for s. Alright? Now, first of all, what is the power for m? Isn't it just 1? Does that make sense? Because the power is just 1, you typically just have the number itself. Whenever you see 2 actually have a power of 1, but because it doesn't mean much, because it's just a number itself, you just write 2. Everybody agreed?
Yes, sir.
Alright, now let's explain what happens when you have m to the negative 1. So, if I had 2 to the negative 1, this really means I have 1 over 2. Alright? So if I see that I have s to the negative 1, this means I have 1 over s. Right? Because before, when it was 2 to the 1, it really meant I had 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2. Does that make sense, everybody? Whenever you saw 2 to the 1, it really meant the same thing as saying 2 divided by 1 or just 2 itself. Alright? So whenever you put a minus sign, just picture it like a division sign. Right? A fraction bar, for example. And you're going to put the number below it now. That's why you have a half instead of 2 over 1. You flip it. Agreed, everybody?
Sir, can you repeat the last part of it, sir?
Alright, so let me just quickly do this one. So look at this for me now. When we have m divided by s, let's write it down in fraction. M over s. Agreed with that?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Now look at this for me now. Whenever you see m as a numerator, it really means m to the 1. Because it's just 1m. But whenever you see s, because it's in the denominator, there's a fraction bar before you get to the number. So you put the fraction bar and then you put 1. Right? So you're basically saying, oh, remember this is a denominator. So always remember that. That's why you see m divided by s.
So now I get it. Thank you.
Yeah, so the minus is not necessarily just a minus. You can use it as a mnemonic device to know that it's a division bar, then the number. It's the easiest way to learn it. Alright, good? Okay? Alright, so what I want us to go through now, after you understand the first quantity and its derived quantity. So the quantity was length, the derived quantity is speed. So the quantity was length, and the derived quantity, so something you get from length is speed. Derived quantity is speed, or as we call it, velocity. And let's prove why they are derived. What was the unit for length again? What was the unit for length, guys?
L.
L, sir.
No, that was a symbol. That was a symbol for length. But the unit now, something that it is measured in. What is length measured in?
Meter.
Meters. So we're going to say m is a symbol for meters. What is the unit now for speed?
Second.
Okay.
So remember, speed is how fast you are going, so how much meter you cover in a given amount of time. So it is meters per second. Right? Doesn't the two of them have meter involved?
Yes, sir.
So that's why we say speed comes from length, because it is deriving length. So I won't go too much in depth because it's a little bit above your level, but the main idea you must understand is what is a quantity, what is a unit, what are derived quantities, right? And what are basic units and basic quantities. All right. So we went through the definition of length. What we talk about is you measuring how long, how far, or how high something is. Now we're going to talk about the prefixes. What is a prefix? All right. Write it out for me. Prefix.
So we should write down prefix of length.
Right, we're gonna write down the prefix. But no. Just so the prefix is not just attached to length. It's attached to all different quantities. Alright? So let's understand what prefix mean. A prefix is a group of letters placed before a word, and they change the meaning of that word. Let me give you an example. So first you write for me, what is a prefix? What is a prefix? What is a prefix? Let's say I have a circle. Perfect circle. Alright? Let's spell the circle. C-I-R-K-L-E. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Are you gonna put circle?
Yes. Is this how you spell circle?
Spell it correctly.
I can't see it.
It's with two C's, not a K.
It's two
It's
C's?
C's, not a K.
Alright.
Brother.
Let me put two C's. Is that how you spell circle?
No, two C's. The C-I-R-C-L-E.
Oh, okay.
That's three C's.
Just making sure you're paying attention. So C-I-R.
Sir, can you do math?
C-I-R-C-L-E. We're gonna change the definition of circle using a prefix. What if I put S-E-M-I in front of circle?
So if you put semi in front of circle, that's half.
Right. So
circle.
the word semi, the prefix S-E-M-I means half of something. So if you have semicircle, you really mean half of the circle. Half of the circle just magically disappears. Just like Thanos when he snapped his finger. Right? There we go. That would be a semicircle. Everybody agreed?
Yes, sir.
So that's why we say prefixes change the definition of words. Alright? So if you have a word and you put a prefix before it, it's a different definition. Okay? Now think about units now. When I put a prefix in front of meter, let's try meter now. Let's say this is a meter. Let's spell it. M-E-T-E-R. Or if you want to be American, you can spell it M-E-T-R-E. Alright? But let's say now I put a prefix in front of this. Let's put my American spelling.
So you can put micro or milli to make it.
Alright. So I hear a suggestion from George. He says I should put millimeter. So let's put M-I. How do you spell milli, George?
M-I-L-L-I.
M-I-L-L-I. Meter. My question to you, everybody. Do you think this meter is going to be the same or it's going to change?
Sir, it's gonna change, sir.
Right. Let me help you to visualize it. This millimeter is going to be, for example, that tiny little dot right there compared to the original. Alright? Because based on the definition, we're taking only 1,000th of this distance as our millimeter. Alright? So that's what it means. Let's look at kilometer now. So everybody join us for me?
You're gonna have to probably add 1,000 to that meter,
Right,
sir.
I'm gonna have 1,000 of these meters for 1 kilometer. Alright? But let me just draw that first. So quickly draw this for me. Draw this as a tiny circle, not circle, box, to represent 1,000th of this meter. Alright? And let's visualize a kilometer now.
So you're gonna need 1,000 of those boxes.
Right. I'm gonna need A kilometer now is going to be smaller or larger than a meter?
Larger, sir.
It's going to be larger because 1,000 of these would give me one of these. Let's put that. 1,000 millimeters, sorry, 1,000 meters give me 1 kilometer. Let's try to visualize that. That's as best as possible how to visualize it, alright? 1,000 of these could fit in this box, guarantee you. So that would be the definition change based on the prefix, which was kilo. So kilo mean 1,000. Alright? So I want you to draw this table for me now. Alright, quickly draw that table for me. Okay? So far we learned about quantity, basic units, and deriving quantities and deriving units. Now we're going to learn about converting between units. So let's do an example right here. Alright, let me check who is that in the room. Good afternoon again, Caleb. Are you okay? Wi-Fi connection?
No, I've been here.
Oh, you've been here? Because typically when I look in the Zoom, it shows me the person that just joined at the bottom. My bad. Alright, cameras on, everybody. Cameras on. All cameras on. Because I'm on the board, that's why I hadn't realized that you're not having a camera on. So let me do a magic trick. I'm going to put you guys on the screen. Let me just small this up. 1 second. There we go. There we go. Okay? And I'm going to put you on the screen now. So let me just look for Zoom. There we go. Hey, there my students. Alright, let me put you on the screen now. Alright. Put you right below here. Okay. Okay. Alright, good. Now, did you guys finish drawing this table? Everybody finished drawing the table?
Yes. Sir, we've been doing online school for more than a year now.
That's crazy. I know. So, before the timer ups, I'm going to give you 1 minute to try this question. How much centimeter makes a meter? And how much millimeter makes 1 meter? So, we're going to have meter. 1 meter is equal to how much centimeters, and 1 meter is equal to how much millimeters? Quickly attempt this.
Okay, sir. 1 centimeter.
Wait. Attempt it and rejoin. Rejoin for me. Alright? 20 seconds left. So, rejoin for me, everybody. Alright, welcome back. So we had George who was about to answer the question before I rudely cut him off. So my apologies, George. Tell me now, how much centimeters make 1 meter, George?
Okay, sir. So 1 meter equal to 100 centimeters.
100 centimeters. Right? And who wants to try the next one? Let me pick on Kira. How much millimeters now? Well, firstly, let me help you a little bit. Let me help you out. How much millimeters make 1 centimeters? So 1 millimeters equal how much centimeters? That's an easier one before you get to the hard one. So Kira, how much millimeters does it take to make 1 centimeter? Rewrite that. 1 second. 1 centimeters is equal to how much millimeters? There we go. Do you know? Alright. No. Anybody want to help her out? Let's see if we can get this one.
Okay, so 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters.
Let's see how we got that. 1 centimeter is equal to how much millimeters? Let's learn about converting between units. Because a while ago, George answered the first one and he got it correct. But in order to get the next ones, we're going to learn how to convert. Alright? Okay. Now look, read this for me, George. It says, convert 200 millimeters to centimeters. It says, since 10 millimeters equal 1 centimeter, so 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. Alright, Kira? But we're going to visualize this next class, so don't worry. So we're going to put that. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. Alright, now George, I want to repeat what you said.
Sorry, I thought you were answering the second one, sir. That was the one which I answered to.
Right, but you got the answer correct though. So what did you say for your answer?
So I said that 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters.
1,000 millimeters. Let's see if he's correct. Alright? Because it took 10 millimeters to get to 1 centimeters, right? And 100 centimeters to get to 1 meter, we're going to combine the two of them and realize it takes 1,000 millimeters to get to 1 meters. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Alright? But if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give you some examples to do for homework. Let's do 2 examples right now. So it says, convert, write that for me. Convert 20 kilometers to meters.
Okay, sir, so that will be 20,000 meters.
Right. But here's the steps. So let's look at the steps though, George. You see, whenever you're converting from a larger unit, such as kilometer, because kilometer is larger than meter. When you're converting from kilometer to meter, you multiply. Alright? Write it down for me, everybody. When we convert from larger units to smaller units, we multiply, and the opposite is true. When we convert from smaller units to larger units, we divide. From smaller units to larger units, we divide. Alright, another alarm. So, before you go, I'm going to put 2 questions similar to this one in the portal and in the WhatsApp chat. We're going to quickly go through this before you go. So if 20 kilometers needs to be converted to meter, we know that kilo means 1,000. So if we have 1 kilometer, we have 1,000 meters. Alright? We're going to multiply, therefore, 20 by 1,000, and that gives us the total amount of meters, which is 20,000 meters. Alright? Everybody understand that one? Hello? Do you guys understand that one?
Yes, sir.
Alright? Let's look at the opposite. What happens when we have a smaller unit such as millimeters and this could be converted to a larger unit such as centimeter? We know that 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeters. But because we're going from smaller to larger, instead of multiplying by 10, we're going to divide 200 by 10. So 200 divided by 10 would be 20, and that's the amount of centimeters we would have if we had 200 millimeters. Alright? Have a great lunch, everybody. Is there any questions before we go?
No, sir.
I'm going to post 2 homework questions. So please check the portal and the WhatsApp chat in a few minutes, and you must attempt them before next class because we're going to go ahead and move on from here. This is a great class. Have a great lunch. Take care.
Okay, sir. Bye. Thank you.